Princess of Wales with David Dimbleby, including at 9 o'clock further news coverage, then at 10:30 another chance to see Diary of a Princess. Reflections from British religious leaders, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, follow at 11:40, and the special service from St Paul's Cathedral can be seen again at 11:50. There are changes on BBC Two also. Shortly, Michael Palin begins his epic journey around the Pacific Rim, a programme which BBC One viewers can see again next Sunday evening. This is BBC One. We now join David Dimbleby for a tribute to Diana, Princess of Wales.
Good evening. In this special programme, we're going to be paying tribute to Diana, Princess of Wales, remembering some of the events of an often troubled life, talking about the contribution she made through her public work, and about the extraordinary excitement her very presence aroused, not just here, but right round the world. A short time ago, her body arrived at RAF Northolt, accompanied by the Prince of Wales. She had died in Paris in the early hours of this morning when her car crashed in a tunnel in the centre of the city. The car was being pursued by press photographers at the time. Many tributes have been paid to her by public figures and private. Outside her home, Kensington Palace, and outside Buckingham Palace, crowds have gathered in mourning. Now at 9 o'clock we'll have a full bulletin covering all the events of this dreadful day. In the few hours since the news of her death broke, those who were the Princess's friends, those whom she helped through her support for charitable causes, those whom she encouraged in sickness or in trouble, and of course political and church leaders have, despite their shock, been expressing their feelings. And here are some of the tributes paid to the Princess.
She was unique. She understood the most precious needs of human beings, particularly those that suffered.
Times shall we remember her in how many different ways? With the sick, the dying, with children, with the needy. When with just a look or a gesture that spoke so much more than words, she would reveal to all of us the depth of her compassion and her humanity.
For myself, I will always be glad that I knew the Princess, and always think of her in very strong and positive terms, as will Hilary. And we can only hope that her work will go forward, and that everyone who can will support her two fine sons and help them to have the life and the future that she would want.
She was undoubtedly one of the best ambassadors of Great Britain.
My memories are all happy, and so far as Diana is concerned, a great sense of her eagerness to be up to it, and having to assure her that she was up to it, and a real tender desire to be what everybody expected of her.
The people everywhere, not just here in Britain, everywhere, they kept faith with Princess Diana. They liked her, they loved her. They regarded her as one of the people. She was the people's princess. And that's how she will stay, how she will remain in our hearts and in our memories.
Diana is now in a place where no human being can ever touch her again. I pray that she rests in peace. Thank you.
Well, with me here are Patrick Jeffson, who was the Princess of Wales' private secretary for 6 years, and Margaret Jay, Baroness Jay, who was a close friend, a colleague, worked with her. Patrick Jeffson, first of all, what made her so special in your view? You knew her intimately in those 6 years you worked with her.
I think she very successfully combined an extraordinary glamour with a very deep sense of responsibility towards her royal duties and her humanitarian work.
And she was something more than a royal princess, wasn't she? She transcended even her membership of the royal family.
That's true. I think she had a remarkable ability to communicate with people all ages and of all cultures in every country that I ever accompanied her to visit, as well as every part of the United Kingdom.
What was she like actually to work with?
She was a very good person to work for, because she was very professional herself, and she set herself very high standards, and she expected others to keep up to them as well.
Margaret Jay, what is your impression of the reason she made this impact, which we've seen all day long with the tributes that have been paid, with the thousands of people going to Kensington Palace and leaving flowers and all the rest of it? What was it about her that attracted people?
I would pick up on Patrick's use of the word communication. I think she did just convey an enormous compassion, humanity. People really felt that they got to know her when they met her, even on the most formal occasions. She was brilliant at getting through to people, and in this day when every movement, every gesture by someone who gets to that kind of superstar status is put under the microscope to the extent that it is, that communication was an extraordinary gift. And it was one, I think, which those of us who worked with her felt both at the big public events and when you were just in a room talking to her, or she was talking to a few people who might be very disadvantaged or from very different backgrounds from her own, but who clearly felt they were speaking to a friend.
What is it that made her a superstar?
I think it's this combination of glamour and duty, and a quite palpable sense of genuine concern, which communicated itself across every language barrier, and which very often was conveyed as much by a gesture or a touch as by any sort of word.
Did she change the feeling people have about the royal family by her very membership of it?
I'm sure that's true, but it was as a representative of the royal family, of the country, and of the charities and organisations that she chose to support, that I think her real value was felt.
But there's not been another member of the royal family who would be mourned in the way that she is being mourned today right across the world. I mean, the whole of the United States, for instance, where she had stardom on a quite extraordinary scale, a sort of almost an icon to people. Is there? I mean, there was something extra special about this.
It's not really for me to say, I don't think, but it's true that she inspired a particular affection. I think that's certainly beyond argument.
Margaret, what do you think is the reason for this?
Well, I think it was the fact that in a world in which people do often feel rather lost and confused about their own lives, that she was a symbol of a lot of things that many people admire. And Patrick's mentioned glamour, but that was in a sense the most superficial of them, although obviously her beauty was an enormous asset to her as a public personality. But it was this ability, as I said before, to make people feel that she genuinely cared about them, that she was someone who had genuine feelings about their problems. And in a world where people are often looking for idols who don't have feet of clay, she didn't appear to have them.
And do you think it was a burden to her to carry this reputation?
I think it was. I think it was something which at the beginning, certainly when I first knew her a little bit in her public work in the mid-80s, I think she was a very different person in the sense that she was rather more scared of the public attention that was directed to her. She was, as I'm sure Patrick would confirm, quite nervous about public events like making speeches and so on and so forth. But as she grew in confidence and as she realised, in a sense, the very positive power that her gift of communication gave her, she became more involved in so many different things, but also grew with the things which she did herself, and that in a sense cancelled out the concern which she'd had at the beginning about whether or not she had a real role.
Do you confirm that? Did you find that her public life was a strain for her?
I think because she took it so seriously, that she set herself these very high standards, because she took great care always to prepare thoroughly for her engagements. I think her success owed as much to her attention to detail and sheer hard work as it did to any natural ability or to her beauty.
Well, we'll talk more about this later on in this programme, but there are a few moments in a lifetime which unite us all with a feeling of shared horror and grief, and the Princess of Wales' sudden death is one of those, as many people who never knew her but felt they knew her, testified today in what the Prime Minister called a nation in shock.
Today, the same British pageantry which heralded Diana's step into the limelight played a lament for her passing. Many had travelled to the palace simply to share their grief with others.
I think the world has lost a very beautiful, witty, clever and charming young lady, and I'm devastated.
I like what she represented in Britain, I really did. I think she was a sincere, truthful person.
And I've seen on newses when she's gone up to Africa and she's like helped all the children, you know, they need us, and she's gone and done it and provided for them. And she's just so marvellous. I don't know how God can take someone away or they've done that. I don't understand it. It's just such a shock to everyone.
Sad.
Tell me why.
Because she was very special to everyone and she was very loved by everyone too.
Not a corner of the kingdom was untouched. In Wales, as people signed a book of remembrance, all the parties agreed there'd be no political activity. In Scotland too, a halt was called to campaigning on devolution as a mark of respect.
She's irreplaceable. I don't think there's anybody in the royal family or in the United Kingdom that could actually take her place. And you really did feel she gave from the heart. It was misunderstood, but what a great queen she could have been.
A traditional Sunday seemed impossible. The gates at Anfield remained closed today as Liverpool's game against Newcastle was cancelled. In Northern Ireland, where the royal family can be a contentious symbol, Princess Diana seemed to have reached across the religious divide. There was sorrow in this Protestant church.
It's her two sons, we think.
Yes, indeed, much.
And outside a Catholic mass, people expressed their grief.
She was probably one of the members of the royal family acceptable to everybody, and everybody's shocked by it and deeply saddened, I think, you know.
Just really, really sad. You know, she definitely, I think the word used was irreplaceable, and I would definitely recognise that.
The crowds that have flocked to Buckingham Palace are strangely silent. In many ways, the nation has mourned for the princess's death in the way that individuals grieve for a family member. There is, of course, overwhelming sorrow, but it's tinged with anger at such an unnecessary loss of life, and guilt too. Guilt that perhaps the country's obsession with Princess Diana has in some way contributed to her fate.
Earlier, grief did spill over into anger.
It's not my fault. It's the public's fault. It's not the public's fault. It's an accident, you know.
We all must be slightly accountable for it, yeah. I think it's a lesson for us to learn in future. For anybody in the public eye, just give them a bit of privacy and, yeah.
Like the solitary bouquet left at Highgrove, there's a sense that the princess's style was unique in the royal family.
My particular memory of her is after a wedding which I took a few years ago, coming out of church and seeing her, like any other mum, leaning up against the wall of a house opposite with the two sons, licking ice cream and watching the bride come out. And I think that's the sort of vision that most people have of her.
She was, I think, quite the easiest member of the royal family to deal with. I mean, not that the others are especially difficult, but there's a combination in Diana of real dignity, I think, but also of a very warm humanity. And that combination of those two was very powerful, I think. We all felt that.
She meant a lot to me. The fact is that Diana is one of the members of the royal family that the nation identifies with most. And the fact that she did a lot of work for the charities really touched my heart. And although I'm not really a royalist, I really feel compelled to come here this morning and leave these flowers for her. I'm just completely shocked. It just sounds so absurd that, well, the best one of the lot had to go first.
In Royal Windsor tonight, there was overwhelming sympathy for her children. Prince William attends Eton College in the town.
She was a very good mother and a very caring person,
And I feel very sorry for the two boys. I think they will miss something, there's a quality in her life which they may not find in the royal family.
Princess Diana will not only be irreplaceable as a mother and a role model for millions, but also as a woman who united the nation.
Martha Kearney's report. Near Kensington Palace, the Princess's London home, is a cafe where the Princess used sometimes to go, taking her two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, with her. Curiously, it's also the meeting place for photographers on the royal beat, waiting for her to drive to or from her house. And it's called the Café Diana. Kirsty Walk is there this evening. Kirsty.
I'm joined here by people whose lives Princess Diana touched, those who knew her and those who didn't know her, all of whom are united here in grief and memory of the Princess. Before we talk to them, we can look now at the scenes outside Kensington Palace, and we can see the hundreds and indeed turning into thousands of flowers there. Messages, small flowers, single roses, large bouquets, pictures of the Princess, each with an individual message on it. Understand there also that they're small groups now of playing cards with the Queen of Hearts. And now we're seeing outside the Café Diana, and all the people gathered outside, no photographers here tonight, but many, many people also leaving flowers here. This was a popular cafe, a well-loved cafe and a well-known cafe. Abdul Basit, you are the owner of this cafe. Now, not long after you opened, the Princess came. What was she coming for?
Well, I just opened after Christmas holiday and she was away, and it happened that I didn't know she was living there, and I named the place after her. And just a few weeks later, she just popped in, not expectedly, and then just say, "Good morning, I'd like to wish you luck for your new business." And then same thing, she asked me, "Why you named it after Cafe? Why you call it Café Diana?" And when I said to her, "Because I'm very fond of you and I do like you," her cheek went red. And after that, she said, "I'm gonna come and see you again. I'm gonna bring the children." And then we become very friendly, and she used to go out from the gate with the children, waving to me, coming sometimes, having a coffee, saying hello. And usually she used to come at least once a month. Now I'm gonna miss her, and I think the whole world is gonna miss her, and the future generation gonna miss her as well, for a great person.
Let's speak to somebody now. Ian Ross, your feelings about what she represented?
I think she appealed to all age groups, right across the age spectrum, but more importantly, young people identified with her. And I think she removed an awful lot of the mystique and the barriers that royalty had built up over the years, bringing in a new generation of royalists, as it were, at a very young age. And I think overnight that has gone now. She will never be replaced. If William marries in years to come, there will never be another Diana.
Jane, your feelings on the past events and memories of Princess Diana, though you never knew her, what did she mean to you?
Well, I'm not a royalist. I came up today to look at what was happening outside Kensington Palace and was deeply moved by all the young people and all the flowers. And I realized that she actually represented something very important, which was the human side of the royal family, a side that was prepared to be vulnerable and to make mistakes. And for that, she resonated with a lot of other women who, like so many of us, were divorced and had to make our own way in life. I think she cannot be replaced. I think this is a historic day, and I have a feeling that the royal family will never be the same again.
Well, Dr. Kelly, you knew and worked with Diana. What was the atmosphere like when she was around your patients?
Well, I went round a hospital with her, and she had this electric effect on people. One had been in Broadmoor, some people had been in that hospital half their lives, and she saw a little old lady, 75, and she said, "You look a bit worried today." And she said, "Well, yes, I was. I was worried you were coming, and I wasn't sure that my dress was okay." And Princess Diana said, "But it looks fine to me." She said, "Well, you see, I'm a bit worried about my belt." So Princess Diana, who was then wearing a two-piece tartan Stuart suit, said, "Tell you what I do. You see, you get a pin, you put it in here, you do that, and no one knows." And this lady lit up like a Christmas tree.
It was an enormous gift that she had to talk to people.
It was an incredible gift. I've met many people in my professional career. No one has been able to communicate better than Princess Diana.
Now, Vivian Price, you also met her through your work with the Children's Orchestra.
Yes.
She took a great deal of care and time to brief herself, didn't she? I mean, that's
she
really
did
what's
indeed.
been coming through today, was that she didn't take things lightly.
No, when she came to visit us on one occasion, she had taken the trouble to wear the same colour as the children's lovely red skirt uniform. And she was prepared to joke about it too. She said that one day she had to go to something at Parsons Green, and she said, I wore a green dress, but she said, nobody saw the joke.
But that was another thing, she was incredibly humorous, and I think people have been saying today that she did have a tremendous sense of humour.
She had a lovely sense of humour. On one occasion she was going down some steps and I said jokingly, don't you dare fall down, and she said, you can't say that to me. And we both laughed.
Now, June, she also came to Deptford to a centre. What difference did it make, do you think, that she took the time to come?
Because when she came because she wanted to come. She came to see the people, to meet the people and share with them their joy in whatever this community centre had to offer. And I was glad that I went along and met her, because her kindness, her thoughtfulness and her caringness, it came out in her. She was just naturally honest to the people.
And Mrs. Harris, we've heard reports how she was very ecumenical and she stretched her hand across the community. What are your impressions of that?
Well, I feel that, yes, she was really multi-denominational. She didn't have any particular religion. I noticed today in front of me on the grass at Kensington Palace there were some Jewish ladies, and they had a Jewish prayer book, and I think there's a prayer said for the dead, Kaddish, and they were saying that, and I think that really represented that. One didn't think of her as having any particular religion, that she belonged to everybody.
Can I come on to two of the younger members? Inga, first of all, you first came over from Holland to see the wedding. Tell me, we've heard earlier that she did modernise the royal family, but was she inspirational to you, both of you?
Yes, as a young girl, I was a fan of her. She was a fresh breeze in the English system here. And I collected everything from scrapbooks to dress-up dolls. And later on I became more intrigued by her personality, her life, her troubles. So,
what do you think the impact of her was?
I think I was actually surprised at myself, not actually being a royalist, that the impact the news had on me this morning. And I think I questioned that, and I realised that even though she was a princess, she really was real. And all the problems she had, everything, you could feel with it. And so when I found out this morning, it was like a real shock to my system. She was a real person.
Jo, what do you think her death represents in terms of people like you and how your feelings for the future?
Well, I was very shocked as well when it happened. I just couldn't believe it. And I think what really came out after a while of thinking about it was that she was symbolic of Britain more than any government or politician or even famous person in Britain. She symbolized Britain. And internationally, she was just associated. You think of Britain, you think of Princess Diana. And from that perspective, it's like a shock to the whole country. It's like something is now missing.
Thank you all very much indeed. And now back to David in the studio.
Kirsty Walk at the Café Diana. Well, many people have spoken today of the Princess of Wales as a refreshing addition to the royal family, and she was certainly different, willing to share with everyone her feelings as she went through the painful business, first of becoming a public figure, then of facing her own private problems, her bulimia, the breakup of her marriage, and the exploration of a new role after it, as mother to the heir to the throne, and as a public figure who could draw attention to individual pain and suffering. And through all this, she spoke with increasing confidence and frankness of the difficulties she faced and drew us in to her attempts to resolve the conflicts. This is Diana in her own words.
To have and to hold.
To have and to hold.
From this day forward.
This day forward. In spite of what Miss Rudge and my other teachers may have thought at the time, I did actually learn something. Though you would never have known by my O-level results. From early childhood, many had felt they were expected to be perfect, but didn't feel they had the right to express their true feelings to those around them. Feelings of guilt, of self-revulsion, and low personal esteem, creating in them a compulsion to dissolve like a disprin and disappear. The illness they developed became their shameful friend. By focusing their energies on controlling their bodies, they had found a refuge from having to face the more painful issues at the center of their lives. At the end of this year, when I've completed my diary of official engagements, I will be reducing the extent of the public life I've led so far. Obviously, I attach great importance to my charity work, and I intend to focus on a smaller range of areas in the future.
Well, we're joined here with Patrick Jefferson by Christopher Balfour, the European chairman of Christie's, who was responsible for the big sale of the Princess of Wales dresses recently, but was a friend of hers over many years. She was very striking for the sort of frankness with which she talked about the problems she faced, wasn't she?
Yes. And again, I was listening to Patrick and Lady J earlier. The word communication has been mentioned, I think, by everybody, and some of the other tapes that you've been playing just now. She did have an ability to communicate. And I'd never done anything that you could call work with her until the sale of the dresses. It was amazing, the speed with which she could infuse the other people that were working on this at Christie's, the respect they had for her, and the word professionalism has been used also this evening. I was amazed at her professionalism, how she could put her problems aside and get on with the job in hand.
But you were her friend. Do you see this as a tragic end to what was a tragic life?
I think a tragic life is probably going a little far. She had years of sadness. I didn't see that much of her during the first years of her divorce. Having seen a lot of her in the last year, leading up to the dress sale, I must say that she was in a happy mood this summer, the summer of '97, and I was delighted to see it.
What was it that allowed people to respond all over the world to her? What is this charisma that she had and so few people have? A handful of film stars, really. No other members of the royal family.
It sounds extremely trite, but star quality. I really first saw it in New York. It was amazing when she walked out of the hotel. I mean, we've been talking about photographers here in London. I've never seen anything like it. As one left for Carlisle to go to Christie's, and as one left Christie's to go to dinner, I've never seen the media interest that was paid to her.
And what does it give to people, that? What is it that they get from identifying with her or watching her or associating with her in some way?
I find it very difficult to answer that. What do people get from being involved in being the presence of any sort of star? She was a star.
What's your abiding memory of her?
Well, particularly as a result of this last summer, she could make things fun. People had to work very hard for that sale. The glamour at the end of it was a result of very hard work, and she was professional and she was meticulous and a hard taskmaster. She wanted the details to be right, but she made it fun for anybody who was involved in that sale at Christie's.
Patrick Jefferson, what do you think people took from her? I mean, we're not talking just about followers of the royal family in this country. We're talking about the whole of the United States. We're talking about people all over the world. We're talking about countless magazine articles of kind of endless fascination with her. What is it they get from that?
I think it might have been to do with her own honesty, with her own feelings, and the way in which she was ready to share with others things which previously might never have been mentioned. And it was a risk she took, and it took great courage on her part. But I think that it meant that those who heard her or saw her felt they identified with her, and that they had been let into a secret part of her life, perhaps, but which nevertheless made her seem vulnerable to them. Christopher talked about the large crowds that had followed her in New York. My memory of those sort of occasions was of a curiously vulnerable person in the middle of them, yet nevertheless a very brave one, and one who understood that through her own courage and through overcoming her own fear and misgiving, she could bring inspiration to others, and that was true.
It was strange to hear her say she didn't like being the centre of attention.
It's true.
She would like to have not had the public role that she had. Was it developed, in a sense, against her own instinct?
Well, as we saw in the clip, she learned that through the public interest in her, she could achieve a great many good things.
And that was the reward for her?
It was. I was never aware of her courting publicity for its own sake or to answer some great need in her. The need was to help others, and she gained a lifetime satisfaction from that, however tragically short her life was.
We're joined now, I hope, from Los Angeles by two friends of the Princess of Wales, Billy Connolly and Dr. Pamela Connolly, better known as Pamela Stevenson, but she's now a psychologist working in Los Angeles. Pamela Connolly, what do you think people's abiding memory, perhaps over there in the United States, will be of the Princess?
She was enormously popular here, but in addition, I think that the American public had some sense of her personal sadness, of her deep sadness, and they loved her because of the humanity that she showed and of how human she was. They loved the fact that she cried, or she showed human emotion, and she cared about people less fortunate. There's a lot of understanding of people who care for the underdog here, and she was definitely a person who did that.
Billy Connolly, what is your abiding memory of her?
Well, I think the thing I liked most about her was she had that extraordinary star quality of perhaps Jackie Kennedy or Princess Grace, but at the same time she was loved by little schoolgirls because of that, her love of fashion, the way she boogied at rock and roll concerts, and her bulimia and things. She seemed to appeal to absolutely everybody. We used to go to little children's parties, mainly for the Duke and Duchess of York's kids, and she would be there. And you would see her sitting around, and children would be playing and doing and achieving little things, and they would run up and tell her like she was their mum. They identified with her too. I think it was quite an extraordinary quality she had.
And last summer, when we were at one of those parties, our daughter Daisy doesn't run very fast, and there were a lot of children's races going on, and Daisy didn't win any of them. And it turned out, unfortunately, that all of the children won races except Daisy. And Diana noticed that, and she got a blue ribbon, and she went up to Daisy, who was crying, and she gave her the ribbon and kissed her and said, "This is for trying so hard." This was a private party. Nobody was watching. There was no press around. There was nobody to see that. Probably nobody knows that, knew that in the past except myself and Daisy and Billy. And she was truly kind, and talks of, her press manipulation, all of that. It has to go by the board. She was a very kind person.
It began as a fairy tale princess marriage and then fell apart in a very public way. Did that enhance her standing, enhance her reputation among people, do you think?
It here in this country, it in a sense makes her more human, because there's a very strong awareness that the fairy tale doesn't always work out. People don't live happily ever after, and we've seen so many examples of that in this country. And I think that it probably endeared her to the American public even more. Would you say so, Billy?
Absolutely, without question. Yeah, because people were really intrigued to see what she was going to do. Because the perception of her in America isn't that she came from a very aristocratic family. The American people always presumed she was a little, she taught little children, she was a kindergarten leader and married a prince. And they kind of wondered what she was going to do. Was this huge family going to run away and leave her? And but they were, everybody was amazed to see this butterfly emerge from this chrysalis, this extraordinarily beautiful woman.
And did they see her as a sort of iconoclast in the royal family? I mean, they used to the image of the royal family over the years being certainly rather more staid than she was when she joined it.
They don't really get the royal family. They don't really fully understand that the family in the way that people in Britain do. I think there's a lot of fantasy, a lot of their only point of equivalency would be stars here in Hollywood. Did I just use an awful American expression?
An equivalency.
Equivalency, okay. I stand corrected. But you know what I mean. They would imagine that she might be a little bit like a Hollywood star, and that would be the closest that they would have. But in fact, you know, she was more a person that they could connect with and understand just for that reason, because she did have the star quality that we're talking about.
You talk about it as star quality. What else did she achieve in terms of the work she did in charity, which we heard a lot about? Did that in the States move people and change their attitudes towards illness, towards sickness?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the AIDS, her work on AIDS had an extraordinary effect in America. The time when she went to the hospital and touched that young guy, laid her hands on the young fella, it sounds a bit over the top, laid hands on, but you know, when she actually touched the man, it had an extraordinary international effect, but particularly in America. It had a profound effect, a very, very lasting effect.
Billy Connolly, Pamela Stevenson, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, they were talking about charity, and of course working for charity is one of the accepted royal duties, but one which involves a great deal more than just turning up at fundraising events and making speeches. To do it well, it involves learning about the charity's work, and at its most successful, bringing a kind of imaginative touch to the role, bringing home to us, the public, what the charity is really about and why it matters. Diana was supremely good in this role, which helped make her, as Peter Marshall reports, what she herself said she hoped to be, Queen of People's Hearts.
In the last 5 years, Philip Walcock has put aside all his scepticism about the Princess of Hearts. As his daughter, Louise, lay dying of terminal cancer, Princess Diana helped the family hugely with personal visits. Down the years, privately, she kept in touch.
She talked about her family, William and Harry. She did ring us, usually about 8 o'clock in the evening, to see how we were going on Christmas time, Louise's anniversary time, whenever she felt like ringing us time. And the last time we spoke, which was the most poignant time, was on the 31st of July at 8:30. She phoned us, approaching Louise's anniversary. And Judy and I spoke for half an hour or more with her. And it was about the impact Louise had had upon her, and about our feelings, about having lost her because time doesn't heal, and I've written about that, and about the good work Louise did. And she spoke about a trip to Bosnia that was coming up. And I'm not going to talk about private things she spoke about, but let me suffice to say she spoke about how happy she was. That was what came over more than anything.
It was her contact and support for AIDS and HIV sufferers over the past decade which cast the Princess publicly in the role of carer.
I think particularly for AIDS, her biggest contribution was the fact that she humanised the whole issue. When people with HIV and AIDS had been demonised, she made people realise that we needed to care and be sympathetic to all people with HIV and AIDS.
Most famously, there was the handshake in a London AIDS unit.
This was the first time anybody of any significance had been seen touching anybody with HIV. And she followed that up by a visit to New York, where she held onto a baby, which again, in its own right, was the first time anyone in the States of any significance, other than Elizabeth Taylor, had been seen to be supportive of HIV and AIDS.
There was enormous reaction to that, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was living there at the time, and the New York Times made a lead article about the whole issue and took to task the President and all the other senior officials in the States for allowing a foreign dignitary to be the first person to highlight the needs of a major public health issue in the USA.
How was she to deal with personally, both for yourself as an administrator and for the victims of various illnesses?
Here you've got this huge mystique, this idol, this huge image walking into the room, and I think people have a sort of an expectation of what she's going to be like, and that sort of humanity, her ability to be at ease and set other people at ease, was one of her particular skills.
Back behind the scenes, she was captured on home video visiting the Woodward family in the East Midlands. She'd met Mr. Woodward earlier when he'd been in hospital with a near-fatal head injury.
I was in hospital, in intensive care, when Charles was in about his wrist, broke his wrist at polo, fractured his wrist. She came out seeing Charles, and she seen my mum crying. She asked to come in to see me, and after that she visited me numerous times. And then she visited me at home, kept her word. She promised me she'd visit me. She visited me. And then, last thing I can remember is giving her a hug. The future queen. Not seen no more of her.
There followed an object lesson in the Diana effect. After Dean Woodward, Headway, the head injuries charity, asked her to be patron. She agreed and funds soared. Typically, there'd be the Diana luncheon.
Probably the best that we did would be something in the order of about £35,000 surplus at the end of that particular occasion.
As against what would it have been before her or without her presence?
Sometimes down in four figures, 3,000, 5,000, and indeed in the one event since she moved away from the charity as royal patron, the same event produced only a £13,000 surplus. So we were down by about 2/3 against what we might have expected when indeed the Princess had joined us.
In fact, it was at a Headway Christmas lunch that Princess Diana announced her withdrawal from public life. Purdah was short-lived. In fact, she moved further onto the international stage, culminating in the global campaign against landmines. In an Angolan minefield, she presented a potent image.
She took that risk, and she also made herself available to the media at that time so that they would actually use that shot of her walking through the minefield just to add some poignancy to the campaign. And she did it so well. She was good at that kind of thing, as well as just talking to individuals.
32,000, 35,000.
This year's sale of her dresses in New York, raising millions for AIDS charities, was a further sign she was controlling how she'd be portrayed.
Yes, I mean, she would turn around and say, I don't think that that is something that I should do. I'm not saying I won't do it in the future, but at this point in time, I don't think I'm going to do that.
So she understood the PR impact of her activities?
Absolutely, absolutely. She knew exactly what she wanted to do and when she wanted to do it.
This was the image she liked best, cuddling a sick child. This was in Pakistan. If outsiders were cynical about the Princess of Hearts, those she met and helped accepted quickly that she was sincere and effective.
I wanted to criticise her. I wanted to find the flaws because I'd read all this wonderful Queen of Hearts thing, and I couldn't, because by nature I'm quite cynical, and I couldn't criticise her. When she looked at you, you knew she was listening and intent upon every word, hang on, every word that you said. She made you feel important.
One of the most successful charities Diana was associated with was the Great Ormond Street Hospital in central London, and Fiona Bruce is there tonight.
Yes, Diana was involved with the hospital for some 10 years, and most recently she was president here. In fact, her two sons, the two princes, were also treated here. And according to sources close to Diana, this was a charity that she held most closely to her heart. And I'm joined tonight by patients, parents of patients and staff. Alan and Jeanette Murray, when did you meet Diana?
Early June. She just come in. Some equipment was being donated to the hospital. She just walked around the ward and stopped, talked to us like any normal person. She was brilliant.
And Marie-Jeanne, your 2-year-old, she was in hospital at the time. What was she being treated for?
She had a hole in the heart and she had to have a new valve put in. And she was very poorly. We nearly lost her a couple of times.
But she's been absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. She had a good chat with us, made us feel comfortable. And
what did she say to you?
She was just actually asking what exactly happened to Marie-Jeanne. And then we explained what happened, and she was asking how we was feeling about it, and was we resting or eating and sleeping. And obviously we was worried the conditions that she was in. And she just gave us advice that we needed rest and that Marie-Jeanne was going to be okay. And it was true. She did come out of it. She's getting there slowly, surely, and we just felt really comfortable with her.
I mean,
really
she's a mum like anyone else, you know. She was there to help us.
And what difference did it make, her coming to see you?
It's given us courage more than anything.
Yeah.
Support. I mean, we never knew that she was going to come. It was just a total surprise. And then when we found out, I mean, we was really happy. She was rubbing Marie-Jeanne's leg when she was actually talking to us. She made us laugh.
Yeah, I mean,
and it was something we never
She
forget.
posed for photographs with us, and I mean, she joked about it. I mean, no, you don't expect that, but the situation was really surprising.
Denise Latter, you're a nurse here. You were on the ward when Diana paid a visit earlier this year. What kind of reaction did you get from patients?
Oh, it was absolutely wonderful. She visited on Valentine's Day to open the renal unit, and the children were just so ecstatic, and they were so excited the week before. It was actually a bit of a nightmare on the ward.
Was there a big build-up?
Oh, it was amazing. There was one little girl who, she was just so excited about seeing Diana. She took her mum out shopping the week before to buy a special little dress for it. And the atmosphere on the ward, even after her visit, was just amazing. It was just non-stop talk Diana. And she was just absolutely wonderful to the patients and the family.
What was she like with the patients? Was she at ease talking to the patients?
Oh, most definitely, yes. Unfortunately, a few patients had just been picked out for her, but she wasn't going to have any of that. She wanted to see all the patients and their families, and she wanted to spend time.
That's what she done with us.
Yeah.
And she went around the whole ward, you know. I'm not going to one patient, I'm going to all of them.
Definitely.
It's brilliant.
And she spent time with the families and the children, you know, just on a one-to-one basis. It was really lovely to see.
Just really made you feel comfortable.
Yeah, unfortunately, we was the only parents there when she came.
Oh, so she gave you her full attention.
It was just one of them things that happens, you know. But I mean, you know, brilliant. She's very caring.
Yeah, the children love her. They really love her. They all gave her, all signed a Valentine's Day card for her and presented it to her on the ward. It was lovely.
Now, Zalihe Osman, you are in the perhaps privileged position of having met Diana. How many times is it?
4 times I met her. First time I remember she asked me why Ashraf is in here, and I explained.
Why is Ashraf here?
Well, Ashraf got a neurological problem, and he had a breathing problem too. Then he has to stay in Turtle ward. But she asked me why Ashraf is here. I explained to her, and she also told me you have to get rest because I told her I am here every day.
And you've been here, it's 3 years Ashraf has been here now.
Nearly 3 years, and I remember one of her last visits, should be in June, she recognized Ashraf and she come up to me and she says, how are you? She hold Ashraf's hand and we have a photo with her.
She made it, what a special effort to come and see Ashraf.
Yeah, she was a very nice lady, lovely, caring.
And how did you feel about the fact that she came to see you? Did you think, oh, here's Diana here on another visit, or did it make you feel better? Did it make any difference?
Yeah, it makes you feel better and excited. And Ashraf was very excited to meet her again. And I wouldn't expect her to remember Ashraf, but she did remember him. She did remember him.
Now, Diana was president of the hospital.
Yeah.
The hospital may or may not be seeking another president. Do you think anyone can replace Diana?
I don't think anyone replace her place anyway. She is a unique person. She is the only one in the world.
Yeah,
What about you, Alan and Jeanette? What do you feel about that?
She's going to be sorely missed.
Badly.
Very badly missed.
Sadly missed too.
Yeah.
It's very tragic.
Yeah, very tragic.
The hospital was going to miss out on a lot of money.
Yeah.
Do you feel she had something particular to offer when she came to see you, for example, given her own particular circumstances? The fact that she had 2 children and perhaps wasn't that happy in her private life?
Well, I think she knew in her heart what every parent goes through. I mean, having a sick child alone is enough, and having a really sick child is more than a worry.
Any parent with
would
a
know
child feels like
that
that.
she's going to be a tragic loss.
Okay. Well, Jeanette and Alan Murray, Denise Latter and Zalihe Osman, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And Marie-Jeanne Ashraf, thanks very much. David, back to you in the studio now.
Fiona Bruce at the Great Ormond Street Hospital. Well, now I'm joined by 3 professional charity workers: Nigel Slater, who's the Director of Fundraising at the Leprosy Mission, Mike Whitlam, who's the Director General of the Red Cross, and Susie Parsons, who's the Chief Executive of the London Lighthouse. Let's just talk as professional people in the charity. We've heard about the impact she made on individual people. How did she approach her work? She's been with you longest, I think, over the years.
We've heard the reference to professionalism several times, and she was highly professional. Although she didn't enjoy giving speeches, she was quite nervous before she gave a speech. She really did want to be fully briefed beforehand and understand the subject. And so she used to come into the office for briefings. We would go and see her. She would read a lot of stuff. She would watch videos and so on. And so she knew the subject absolutely before she spoke. And on planes going out to some of the countries where we visited, she would work on the script to get it absolutely right. So that
But what was it you looked for from her?
I think she had two major qualities that helped the Red Cross. One was her ability to attract press interest for subjects that the press were not interested in. We spent a year trying to promote the landmines campaign in '96 and got very little interest until she came on board towards the end of the year and we went to Angola. And then suddenly the thing took off and everybody was interested. The second thing was her ability to empathise with people who were suffering in some way or other, whether they were landmine victims or people who had no food or whatever. And she was very much able to listen, to advise, and to leave behind something that would give these people hope. And I remember the level of detail she was involved in Nepal, in one village there where we were going around a school and a water project. She insisted on going to see one of the latrines that had been produced, and we opened the door and there was just an ordinary latrine which she was very keen to see, so she could talk about it with the people that had felt very proud to have built their own latrine. It was that level of detail.
Was she aware when she went into the landmines business that she was treading on delicate political ground? And was she fearless about that, or was she convinced it was just a humanitarian effort and the politics was another person's problem?
No, I think she approached it as a humanitarian issue, very much so. But I do remember one or two of the first meetings we had where we talked about it, talking about the sensitivities of the subject, and that we would be approaching a subject where some people would feel that it was inappropriate for the Red Cross or for her to get involved in this subject. This was a subject that the Red Cross for the first time had campaigned about. We don't normally campaign. And she came in but approached it with a humanitarian perspective. She was concerned about the victims, the children, the women who worked in the fields. And that's how we approached it. So in Angola, when at 2 o'clock in the morning we were suddenly phoned up and said this problem had erupted in London with a possible political difficulty, I think she was confused. She didn't understand why it had suddenly been made a political issue. And I thought a response during the course of the day when we were in the middle of the minefield, actually talking to journalists, was exactly right. It was a humanitarian issue for her, and she really didn't want to get involved in the political issue.
What about the London Lighthouse? People HIV positive or with AIDS, she's said to have revolutionised the approach, not just in this country, but all across the world to AIDS. What was it that she did? How did that happen?
I think that very powerful image of the Princess of Wales sitting on the bed of somebody with AIDS and holding their hand and actually touching them, it is impossible to underestimate the impact that had in terms of ordinary people thinking, well, okay, if the Princess of Wales can touch somebody with AIDS, maybe it's not so frightening and so difficult and such a dreadful disease to have to contemplate as all that. I mean, that was just such a very powerful thing that she did.
Was it her ability to demonstrate that there was nothing to be frightened of in touching people, or was it in some way her suggesting that these people weren't social outcasts, this wasn't an illness that threw you out of society?
I think it was both of those really that were very important. At the time when she did that, there was a huge amount of prejudice and discrimination against people with HIV and AIDS, and the fact that the Princess of Wales was prepared to take an interest in people with AIDS and to be with them and to touch them, I think did a huge amount to dispel that prejudice and discrimination that people
just briefly,
faced.
did she? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but did she work this out with you in advance, what it was she was going to do or how she would do it, or was it just something she did almost by instinct, got involved in by instinct?
It was a completely instinctive and spontaneous gesture, and she was just so good at knowing the right thing to do in every situation. What we will remember her for mostly is her private visits to London Lighthouse, which were not publicised. We were actually expecting her the week after next to come on a private visit, which nobody would have known about outside Lighthouse had it not been for her tragic death. And she just had an ability to come into a room full of people who were apprehensive about meeting her and to get them laughing and joking and totally relaxed in a couple of minutes. It was magic.
Very much the same happened with leprosy, didn't it? I mean, she was criticised for going ahead and touching people who were lepers in the press.
Yes, she was. There was a screaming headline in a tabloid some years ago when news came that she was going to visit some of our leprosy hospitals, and they said, "Don't do it, die," which indicates the prejudice, the stigma which exists in this country, and it's that much stronger, of course, in the developing world, where those with leprosy are still regarded as unclean, still regarded as cursed by God. And so when she was photographed holding hands with leprosy patients, or what's left of their hands, this did a tremendous amount to remove that stigma.
Was that instinct, or did you talk to her about how a breakthrough could be achieved and what you'd like her to do?
I believe it was instinctive. I think that she is a genuinely compassionate and caring person. It's very difficult to add to the tributes which have been given to her in that respect. She's also a very likeable person, and it was tremendous fun to work with her.
Will you be able to replace what she did for the Red Cross?
Not in the way that she provided it, no. I mean, I think the landmine campaign will go on, as much of the work of the Red Cross will go on, but the special charisma combined with her ability to attract press and be empathetic, I think that's going to be very difficult to replace in one person. I think it's going to take a lot of people to be able to replace that. And we're going to have to look in the future. We have 2 big fundraising events coming up in October, which she should have been at, and I don't know quite how we're going to take those forward, but I hope we can go forward and that the landmines situation will be abolished and be a tribute to her ability to really raise an issue of this kind in the public's eye.
And for you?
For the people who use our services, she's irreplaceable. Many people who've met her several times over the years feel that they have lost a personal friend.
Thank you all three very much indeed. Well, tonight the tributes are going on to Diana, Princess of Wales, outside Buckingham Palace. There are crowds and candles have been lit in her memory, flowers all day, and tonight these candles. So those are the scenes outside Buckingham Palace this evening, and that brings the first half of this tribute to Diana, Princess of Wales, to an end. We'll be back after the news, but now coming up to 9 o'clock, we join Peter Sissons in the newsroom for the full description of the events of today.